So the question is why a great person like Adi Shankaracharya would follow something like caste system. So to go into this, we need to understand that a spiritual process are of different kinds. Some of them would make you go beyond all the limitations, but for that it's going to be more extreme. For example, like Aghor, if you know, Aghor has to go beyond all limitations. That is what is known as the Ashtapasha. So at the time of Adi Shankaracharya, he had a guru also, and he came from certain kind of spiritual heritage and lineage that was part of integrated in the society, that used to serve the society as well. For example, if you look into the Aghor Shaivanism, they would, or the Shaktism, they would stay away from the society, and then they would live close to the cremations grounds, such as in the Kashi, Varanasi, or Banaras, I would say. So what actually happens is, when certain kind of spiritual process is part of the society and everything, it slowly influences the spiritual process per se also. And not only that, what actually happens is, if you look from the path of the Buddha, time of the Buddha, if you see, or any other masters, enlightened, self-realized masters, what actually happens is, they have got like many disciples, and these disciples would go to different parts of the country and everything. And as you know, at that time there was no way of recording audio or video or that kind of methods. So that way what actually happened is, when the disciples went to different directions, and then there's no way of maintain the integrity outside, the same way the guru, the main guru, the enlightened one, passed on to their disciples. So they would get influenced. For example, the Buddhism that what Buddha started, and I wouldn't say Buddhism, but the teaching what he started as a Dhamma, and the Buddhism what we see in the world today, Buddha himself would be completely confused, I would say. So there are like a certain kind of processes that are influenced by the society, and not only that, it also depends on the seeker's background also, where the seeker is coming from. And this thing is not only exclusive only to Adi Shankaracharya, but it is also happened with Swami Vivekananda. It happened with A.C. Bhaktivedanta from ISKCON. Similar to that one, like if you look from the story of Bhaktivedanta Swami from ISKCON, if you look, like he has categorized all the different kind of people from like as people say, like a caste system, like Brahmins, and he goes to Kshatriyas, and then Vaishyas, Sudras, and not only that, he goes to something known as the Mlechas, Mlechas and Chandals. Similar to that one, like but you'll see that if you look across the world, there are many people from African origin also, who had no heritage of any Vedic tradition or anything, but they have also been initiated into the brahmacharis of ISKCON. And if you look the story of Swami Vivekananda once was in the Rajasthan, in one of the king invited him, and then at that place there was one prostitute, a woman who was been invited there to sing a song at the event. And Swami Vivekananda didn't actually wanted to attend the event, but because of the reputation of the singer or the prostitute, the king said he couldn't send her away. So she actually sang a devotional song, and that actually touched Swami Vivekananda. And that was one sort of, spiritual evolution for him. Coming back to Adi Shankaracharya, we know that what Shankaracharya has done is, I don't think there is any other spiritual masters who actually have done that much to revive or keep the fire burning throughout the Bharatvarsh, from north to south, east to west, and everything. In his case, what actually happened, one of the incident is, he was in Varanasi, and then while he was going on the way, there was a Chandal. Chandal is basically people who used to do the menial works, and very close with domes. Also, domes are the people who actually handle the cremation task. We used to burn the corpses in the banks of Manikarnika Ghat and any other ghats across the river, Ganga. So the Chandal was on the way, other people were saying, okay, these guys are Brahmins and you should not be touching him or something. So when Shankaracharya asked the Chandal to move away, the Chandal said that do you want my body to move away, or my essence of the self, which is actually existent everywhere? So that was one kind of a profound time for Adi Shankaracharya to wake up and everything. Sadhguru has also mentioned this story. So what actually happens is there is a certain kind of tradition that just because it has to fit the society, because many spiritual paths, some of them are completely isolated from the society, and some of them actually are integral part of the social norms at the time. So what actually happened was the main reason is, although that was the norm of the society and everything, and that is where they actually got evolved by this kind of scenarios. For example, for Lakshmana, for her, it was the, sort of a reminder. Similar to that one, it happened the same way for others also. Now coming back, why this is happening is because of one, I think the social influence is already there. Another thing is if you read and everything, Adi Shankaracharya was not completely evolved. He was on the way. And it was the same thing with Swami Vivekananda also. So Sadhguru has mentioned that to have certain kind of mastery over consecration and everything, you don't necessarily have to become enlightened per se. And it is said that Adi Shankaracharya, when he went to the Himalayas, to one of the Jyotirlingas in the Uttarakhand, so he went over there, and then he just had his Mahasamadhi over there, and then nobody found him again. So these are the things. And then and it is also said that when Vivekananda got realized like a completely like fully enlightened. He couldn't hold his body, and quite astonishingly, like both Vivekananda as well as Shankaracharya actually left their body around the same age. What they have done is like a phenomenal task, like that many people would take many lifetimes. Now coming back, like the caste system and everything, many people have a misunderstanding what this is and everything. So basically, like it is being put in the, like if you look into some of the things, like there is a concept of Dvija. Okay, Dvija basically means like who is twice born. So anyone like who have been initiated in a very powerful spiritual processes, they are actually Dvija. So basically, like they are like twice born. And if you look into some of the scriptures, like what is being said is like apart from the Sudras, rest of them are Dvijas. Okay, and there are like many interpretations and everything, but what is being said is like the caste system is actually not the true thing. The discrimination is a socially pull thing. Like for example, even in the time of the Dwapara Yuga, even like the Yaduvamshis, they were actually the Kshatriyas, or even like some of them were actually Vaishyas, because like they were the cow herd, like agrarian people. So you can actually change the status of where you are, like these are actually known as the Varnas. Varnas basically means color, but like a color does not basically means the skin color or anything, but the flavor or anything to categorize. For example, like people who have actually experienced the unity with the world or the existence and nature and everything, these were known as the Brahmins. Brahmins basically means who had the knowledge of the Brahman. Okay, so if you have experienced something of beyond, you are already a Brahman. Okay, Brahman and Brahman are completely different. Who have experienced Brahman is called Brahmana. Okay, so this is like a Brahma, and then like there's a Brahmana. Ana is there like a Sanskrit word. Ana. Just like Vishnu, just like that, Brahman. Okay, so the next category is known as the Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas does not have the unity, understanding of the unity with the existence, but they have the higher scope of life than the Vaishyas and Sudras and Chandals. So basically, like in this scenario, for example, if you go from the bottom, what actually happens is, there is something known as, what is it says is like in Yajnavalkya, in one of the Upanishad, says that everyone who is born as Sudra. Okay, so everybody is born as a Sudra, whether you are born in a Kshatriya family or Hindu family or something, you are born as a Sudra. Because Sudra basically means like you are only interested about yourself. You are like a self-centered. For example, like when you are born, like you cry. Why do you cry? Because you are hungry, you want food, that is natural response. And like when you see your mother, you become happy, you get food and everything. When you feel hungry again, you cry again. Okay, so you want to try to control your mothers, not because you are smiling, not because you see your mother, because you are smiling because she is the source of your survival. Okay, this is another way of looking into it. I don't want to make it like a too coarse and everything, but yeah. So you become a Sudra because like you are only thinking about your survival. Now what actually happens is, now as you grow, and what actually happens is, now you are not only thinking about yourself, but you are also thinking about the society, your family members, your relatives and everything. At least your family, you are thinking about it. Now this is where you are not only thinking about yourself, but as a society or your family or your like let's say clan or something. So this is what we refer as the Vaishya. Vaishya comes from the word as a water agricultural people. Okay, because in the past, like all the agriculture used to happen in the water and everything. where the river is and everything. So farming people and everything, that is where the word Vaishya comes into the play. So Vaishya is like a business people in today's world, and they are interested only with their family members. For example, like if some war breaks out or something, they don't really care about like who wins. Okay, they don't really care. At least today they cares, but in the past they didn't used to care, because like the countries or the kings used to fight with each other, and whoever controls their territory, they used to serve everyone. Okay, they have no like enemies. They don't have any friends. Like they are the business people. Even today, maybe similar. Now, the next phase is basically the third type is we mentioned earlier Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas come from the word Kshetra. Kshetra means area or the region. So basically, like Kshatriya has got larger scope than the Vaishyas and Sudras, because Sudra is only thinking about himself. Vaishyas are thinking only about their family. But Kshatriya is the only person who is willing to die even for the people who he does not know. He is willing to die for the region or the area or the king or something. That's how, like, it's very sophisticated. That's why, like, they are Kshatriyas, and that is where the kings and then like warriors comes into the play. So their scope is more higher than that one, but like they don't have enough, or like out and say limitation. Like there can be some exceptions and outliers. But what I want to say is their scope is like a less higher than the Vaishyas and Sudras, but like their objective is just that, certain kind of limitedness. But the Brahmins, who have the understanding of the existence and unity of everything and nature and everything, what actually happens is like they are interested more into how to make everything work in harmony. And that is the main reason, like the kings or the Kshatriyas used to consult with the Brahmins, who actually became the mantris, and then who are the guru purohits, and then who used to suggest them to action. But what actually happened as it went down the centuries, because the integrity was lost, people were born in the Kshatriya family, like we told earlier, that your born does not determine your Varna. So you might be Sudra. So even if you are born in a king's family, you might only be indulging in pleasure. And that is where they want to have more power and more wealth, just like the Vaishyas and everything. And they lost the track. And that is how people who had the knowledge and power used to always control the Vaishyas and Sudras. But that was not actually how it was initially, how it started. So same kind of influence also happened in the certain kind of spiritual practices. You must have seen the recent interview of Sadhguru with one of the spiritual sects in Karnataka. So they were asking a lot of questions and everything. Sadhguru was answering things. What actually happens is the beauty of Guru Shishya Paramparya is powerful, because it keeps things alive. But in one of the questions, just like Sadhguru says, that Zen, what we know today, is also very powerful, but it depends upon who is actually transmitting and who is receiving, because it's the transmission that is more important than the content in the scriptures and everything. That's how he says that okay, we are not going to dismissing it, but it can be used only as the inspiration and way of guidebook, but it cannot be used as the real thing, just like the powerful initiation and the spiritual process. So that is where Shankaracharya also came from, Guru Shishya Paramparya, where because of don't get me wrong, but as Sadhguru also says that when you are in a very powerful spiritual processes, you need to maintain the integrity of distancing with people and all that kind of stuff. He's not going into a caste or anything based on where they are. But even if let's say like two people are in the same kind of spiritual processes and everything. Now like regardless of like whatever it is, once you are initiated, you are Dvija. That basically means there's no caste for you anymore. All your like the memory, there's a distance between you and memory created by the energies of the Guru, because of his grace. And because of that reason, what actually happens is like to maintain the purity. For example, like we have discussed in Hatha Yoga and everything, like Kriya Yoga, like what you eat and who your companies are is going to impact you initially in the beginning. And even Sadhguru mentioned that like he usually during the programs, like even though he's not physically in touch with other people, he used to like take bath like 5 to 7 times in a day. So because of that, like let's not go into the akashic body increasing or energy body expansion and everything. That's a different matter. But what actually happens is like people who are in the spiritual processes, they are already in the certain kind of energy state. And people who are like let's say like in terms of like a chandal or like a dome or whatever, like in the context of that one, we do not know like what actually happened. Like people have different interpretation. I used to read like all this like a Buddhist texts and everything, and there are like a 4 or 5 variation of that one. Okay. So it's like really pinpoint what it is. But one of the reason like why the Brahmins used to like stay away from people is basically other people, even not only like Brahmins, but like the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas and everything, like why they didn't intermingle and everything, because other people used to like drink alcohol or meat or something. I'm not like judging anyone, but like just giving you an example. What actually happens is like if you are in a spiritual process, you should not be washing the clothes of 2 people together. Even 2 spiritual people who are in the same process, they should not be washing, because like their body is like a very sensitive and a very high energy state and everything. And in that case, since your energy body is like a very malleable and everything, you can change the direction, or like you can do whatever other kind of mystical stuff you can do with your system. So in that kind of cases, like they try to avoid not only like people from other like other people, not only that, but also the other spiritual people. But like these are the various factors. One is if you are in a very like a powerful spiritual process and everything, you have to maintain the integrity of your practice. That is the reason like there are words known as like avadut. If you have heard about it, avadut does not actually has a home. Okay. So he considers everything as a home, but like he does not have a specific home. Or like a vairagya, and then like sannyas and everything. The main only reason is like you want to have a very spiritual process, and it does not want to be impacted by others. Maybe possibly that was one of the reason that Brahmins didn't used to touch the other people. And maybe like down the line, like people, things became something. That is one reason I can see. Another thing is like let's say if you are initiated from the childhood or something, in any of the sect or something, if you don't have the live guru and everything, you are bound to take up like what is over there. And the Vedas and Upanishads and everything, they are too vast. Okay, so for someone to read the entire thing, it could be impossible. If you read the history, like we know why we call like one of the person like who is known as the Vedvyas. It is not his real name. Why he's called is known as the Vedvyas, because all the enormous knowledge of the spiritual past and all the things of the past were like too huge for people to do it. So Vedvyas basically means like who have divided the knowledge. That is where the word Vedvyas comes, and he make it into 4 parts. Okay, that is where the 4 Vedas comes into the play. He actually compiled them and then like organized them. That's how it's called Vedvyas. If you look into the history, go deeper into the history, there is actually like a 2 Vedvyas. Okay, so Vedvyas is not actually the name, but it's more like a title. Okay, so that is one of the reason. And why I'm telling you this is because like when you are initiated into the guru, like there are certain kind of the traditions which is pure kriya yoga. For example, like what Sadhguru refers to and is tradition from Agastya. So there is no scriptures or anything, like it's just initiation and processes and everything, boom. So there is no way of, it's pure experience only. But there are certain kind of processes like a bhakti yoga and everything, that's a different matter. But here we are referring into the jnana yoga. So which is actually the path of the Advaita Vedanta and everything, which is basically the Shankaracharya as well as the, what we refer as the Swami Vivekananda, because Swami Vivekananda got the Advaita Vedanta from Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa got it from the Totapuri, okay, who was actually one of the, like a Natha, okay. So he was from like a Punjab, okay. He had got like akhadas of like I think like more than 800 or 700 like the disciples. So it's nearly impossible for you to like read everything over there. It's nearly impossible to like have the practices on all of that, like memorizing the mantras and practicing and all that kind of stuff. And whenever you are reading, like you can also misinterpret, because it's not possible for you to do all that. But that is where like there can be like some kind of limitations. I wouldn't say like Adi Shankaracharya is it, because like whatever we are talking about, like some kind of discrimination you might be seeing or something, that can be for certain reason. There can be some misinterpretation also, because like I said, like at that time there was no way to record what they were saying, okay. There's no way of recording the audio or visual or anything. So some distortion might have happened, or in one of that encounter with like Adi Shankaracharya and then Chandal, like it is quite popular, and that is shown as that one. So at that time might be like he was evolving way, he was still in the progression. And as you know, like he comes from like a certain kind of like a Guru Shishya Parampara, who used to be very much interacting with the social factor. That is one way. And this thing also comes from the another part, like this encounter of the prostitute, and then the Swami Vivekananda also, because Swami Vivekananda was like a very learned, very intellectual person, and he came like he went to like the entire story with Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and everything. And when Ramakrishna Paramahamsa got married with his wife long time ago, before he actually became a priest of the Kali temple in Kolkata, where I had the opportunity to visit. So the funny thing is, like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa always saw each and every woman as his mother. And you can see that like we know Ramakrishna Paramahamsa only because of the Swami Vivekananda, but at the same time Swami Vivekananda himself being the disciple of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa still has certain limitation with him, which he could not saw the divinity within every body or something. And this is where like the certain kind of just like Sadhguru says, that like the logical mind has limitation only, okay. It has always the limitation only when you transcend the logical mind, and that is where finally the bhakti arises. And bhakti, as Sadhguru says, it's not about the emotion, it's about the pure intelligence, where it's all about the inclusiveness. While the Jnana Yoga, which actually follows the path of Shravan, Manan and Nididhasana, which is the process of the Jnana Yoga, it basically means like a listening, reflecting and experiencing. And what Sadhguru says, like in his terms, like out of the 4 parts of your mind, there are 16, but like he says, like 4 parts. He also summarizes like 4 parts are more important, as long as you use the intellect, because intellect works only because of your identity, which is the ego, or whatever we call as the ahankara, buddhi. So if you use that one, this is basically you are always going to divide and never come to the truth. But the fourth part, which is basically the chitta, which is unsullied by the memory, and that is actually the actual jnana yoga. And if you know how Buddha became very popular, and how Adi Shankaracharya became very popular, and how Swami Vivekananda became popular. Why all this? Because they went to propagate whatever they received through their own practice or something, and that's how they become more popular. And there are many other enlightened beings out there who are very rare and everything. Some we will never know about them and everything. So these are the other things aspect into it. So as you are on the path, you will find out your limitations. So that was one of the limitation what I believe Shankaracharya or everyone actually encountered. Even Krishna's brother, who has the Sesnak himself, Balaram, he had also got his limitations on its way. So the limitations are always there. It's a part of that one. If you look into the story of there is many different segments into that one. So coming back into a caste and the burners and everything. Caste are not the burners actually, and burners are not the caste. They are neither the synonymous nor they are the same. Caste is basically it's a social phenomena. Okay, it's a social thing that can be changed, but burners you can never change. Okay, because whether we like it or not, it is always going to be that way. It's how the nature functions. So that is what it is. And coming back, there was the fourth thing, which is known as the mlechas. Mlechas are basically the people who has actually gone even beyond everything. Okay, these are the barbaric people. For example, the words what they use mlecha was the people who eat meat. Okay, at that time. So now if you look into it, maybe we are most of us are all mlechas and everything. I don't want to judge anyone. Sometimes it's the preference, some of them time is the compulsions, and some of times it's a survival need also. If you are born in the island, or if you are born in the a desert, or if you are in a famine ridden region, then you don't have a choice. You have to survive. So you don't become a non-veg by choice, but because of the requirement. So these are the other things. So during the evolution, people will have limitations and everything, but now we just need to look into it from the perspective that what's the end goal or something. Is anything completely finished? Just like Sadhguru says that the end or the final thing, if you don't want to look into the limitations of anything, it has to be Dhanalinga, which is the formless divinity, or you have to attain nirvana or parinirvana or mahasamadhi. That's the only way. Because as long as we are alive or something, our past memories or our whatever understanding we have will always influence, and whether consciously, unconsciously, or subconsciously, they are going to control us. So that is my take on this one. Why a person Adi Shankaracharya would be that way. So there are many stories like this, and down the line story many things can be interpreted, misinterpreted, added whistles and bells and whistles, all that kind of stuff will happen. Okay, but nowadays because of the audio recording and videos, we are living in times where we are able to receive the grace of Sadhguru without any interpretation. Okay, so the only limitation that remains at the moment is us. who is the receiving end. But if you are like willing to receive his energies, like the way of the Kriya Yoga, and follow Karma Yoga, what he has set down, then like we are set as for this for this life and beyond. So there's no doubt about it. Namaskar.